Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a fascinating mental model that completely flips how we look at our daily tasks, our work, and our own efficiency. We are going to explore a wild concept: why trying to go faster actually means you end up going slower. Let's talk about the speed paradox.
So have you ever noticed that the faster you try to go, the further behind you actually get? It is a hugely frustrating but totally universal human experience. You know the drill. You're up against a crazy tight deadline, you rushed across the finish line, and boom, you make a careless mistake. A mistake that takes twice as long to fix than if you had just taken a breath and paced yourself in the first place.
We call this the speed paradox. Now, modern society constantly conditions us to equate speed with success, right? But skipping careful thought literally ruins our results. The speed paradox shows us that moving too fast creates a rising tide of complexity and errors that slows your overall progress to an absolute crawl. True efficiency? It doesn't come from frantic rushing. It requires deliberate pacing.
Act 1, Papa's Take and Flypaper Wisdom. Let's ground this with a deeply human story from our Source Newsletter's author, affectionately known as Papa. He didn't learn the true cost of rushing from some dry textbook. He learned it directly from his grandmother. He remembers that her warnings against rushing didn't make a ton of sense to his energetic, young mind at the time. But, as she put it, her wisdom stuck there like a fly on flypaper. It just lay dormant in his mind until life experience finally proved her absolutely right.
Because, as Papa realized much later on, rushing without planning leads straight to waste and rework. Think about attacking a complex task blindly. It's exactly like frantically pulling on a frayed knot. The harder and faster you yank, the worse that knot gets. Taking thoughtful time to plan is like gently, methodically untangling it. Grandma hit the nail right on the head.
Act 2, From 16th Century Scholars to Benjamin Franklin.
This whole realization isn't some trendy new productivity hack. It is centuries old. Let's trace it back. The proverb, "Haste maketh waste," was formally jotted down in 1542 when the English scholar Nicholas Udall translated the works of Erasmus. Then it popped up again in John Haywood's 1546 glossary. But it really caught global fire in 1753 thanks to a guy you might recognize, Benjamin Franklin.
Now, Franklin obviously didn't invent the proverb, but as a printer and a politician, someone who knew intimately how a single rushed printing job creates insanely expensive, time-consuming fixes, he saw its profound value. He adapted this ancient wisdom to fit the practical, everyday needs of 18th century colonial America, dropping it into the 1758 preface of Poor Richard's Almanack.
Writing under his famous pseudonym Richard Saunders, Franklin wrapped heavy moral lessons into these wonderfully simple, memorable phrases. He masterfully contrasted the quiet power of diligence and patience against the destructive chaos of haste makes waste, and it was a massive hit, selling up to 10,000 copies a year to everyday farmers, artisans, and sailors.
Over time, a fascinating linguistic split actually happened. Americans fully embraced Franklin's punchy haste makes waste, while the British maintained a slightly older variant, more haste, less speed. The British version elegantly focuses on the difference between unconsidered, frantic rapidity, which is haste, versus objectively observed productive quickness, which is speed.
But why did the American version become such a massive cultural staple? Well, we can thank a cognitive bias called the rhyme as reason effect. Our brains literally find rhyming advice more believable and way easier to process. Haste makes waste sounds right rhythmically, so our brains just decide it feels right intellectually. Which brings us to the ultimate modern tension. If we tie Benjamin Franklin's 18th century thoughts directly to today, we hit a famous modern mantra heavily used in military and tactical training. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It is the exact same philosophy. True speed comes from flawless, smooth execution, and you can only achieve that kind of smoothness through slow, deliberate focus and practice. And this applies absolutely everywhere. Legendary American basketball coach John Wooden instilled this exact mindset in his players. He told them, "Be quick, but don't hurry." You absolutely need energy and quickness to win, for sure, but the very second you cross over into a frantic, careless hurry, you fumble the ball. You have to move at the speed of competence.
Act 3, Navigating the Daily Rhythm.
So how do we take Franklin's almanac wisdom, Papa's grandmother's flypaper lessons, and this tactical slow is smooth mindset and actually use it on a random Tuesday morning? It comes down to this: success blends energy with restraint. Think of your workday like navigating a really dense, overgrown forest. If you sprint blindly into the trees, you are going to get lost, exhausted, and battered by branches. But if you pause, read your compass, and walk at a deliberate pace, you actually get home so much faster.
The synthesis, key takeaways. Let's distill all this rich history into a few clear takeaways you can use right now to conquer the speed paradox in your own life. 1. Pause to plan before acting. Untangle that knot gently. 2. Value accuracy over sheer speed. 3. Remember that hasty work almost always guarantees rework. And 4. Embrace a smooth, deliberate pace to stop your errors from compounding. Remember, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast.
Benjamin Franklin summed this entire journey up beautifully. He wrote that lost time is never found again. So by diligence shall we do more with less perplexity. That diligence, that care, that smooth pacing, it actually removes the perplexity and difficulty from our lives. It clears our path forward.
As Papa learned from his grandmother all those years ago, taking thoughtful time saves an incredible amount of waste. So my final question to you as we wrap up this explainer is this. Are you going to keep frantically racing against the clock, or are you finally ready to slow down so you can speed up? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and I will catch you next time.